Absolutely. Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. Okay, at this time, we are going to move forward. I thank you, my fellow commissioners, for those comments. And we will continue to move forward here. Back to the regularly scheduled program. The Commission's strategic plan for the 2020-2023. I'm sorry, I'm just a little thrown. It's a lot. Okay, I'll get this. Here we go. The Commission's strategic plan for 2020 through 2023 is committed to 3 strategic goals and objectives to advance the Commission's vision of well-being for all Californians. So Cody, I'm going to ask you at this time to please bring up the strategic goal slide. And should I be? There we go. There it is. Don't know if it's behind me. So hopefully everybody can see it on their screens. I think we can see it up there. So you see our strategic goals. Thank you, Cody. The April 2022 commission meeting recording is now available on our website. There will be no commission meeting in June. So the next commission meeting will take place on July 28th at the location. No, the location is determined. The location to be determined still. Okay, the location to be determined. Something want to talk to you about or mention the Children's Committee meeting. We would like to invite all commissioners, partners, and members of the public to join us for our first Children's Committee meeting, which will take place today, May 26th, from 2 to 4 p.m. In this first meeting, we hope to define the structure of the committee, including goals and desired outcomes, and the opportunities it represents and ways it can be effective. The committee's focus will be on enhancing the integration of the Commission's work on children's mental health and supporting the governor's Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. Also, a reminder that the Commission has moved to this new location as we are here. So the address is 1812 9th Street, Sacramento, California, 95811. And there is a new phone number, so please take note. That number is 916-500-0577. We ask that all partners and members of the public use this new contact information to reach out to the OAC. Next, I would like to invite Lauren Quintero to make an exciting announcement about new staff joining the commission. So please come forward.
Hello, commissioners. I have hired, well, first of all, for those that don't know me, my name is Lauren Quintero. I'm Chief of Administrative Services, so I'm over contracts and HR. And we got a new position for a budget analyst. She's here with us today. Kate Dvoretsky joined us about a week ago. We're really excited to have her help us with the budget functions. And then joining us virtually is Nai Se Chow. She will be working in the stakeholder engagement and grants division and will assist with the Mental Health Student Services Act implementation. And she's working directly with Tom Orak, who cannot be here today because his son is graduating, which is a pretty big deal. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Please.
I want to make an additional announcement. I want to introduce Jeff Margolis. Jeff will be joining the commission as our new chief counsel in early June. So he has a very impressive history working in the legislature. He was a deputy insurance commissioner for a while, very accomplished working for boards and commissions, working on policy. And so we look forward to the opportunity for you to connect with Jeff as he joins us early next month and help support all of our policy and legal issues, including all of our Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act work, which is particularly challenging right now as we work to transition to this hybrid model. So
Welcome, Jeff. Welcome. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And welcome to all the new team members. We are happy to have you here. We're a fun group of commissioners. We were missing a few here in person, but we look forward to getting to know you all. Also, regarding the racial equity plan, we anticipate that the July meeting include a vote to adopt the racial equity plan. So in the next couple of months, please take a look at the plan and provide any comments or questions that you may have. regarding immigrant refugee awards. On May 20th, the commission awarded contracts to 5 organizations to support the advocacy, training, and education and outreach and engagement needs of immigrant and refugee populations in California. 4 local level organizations will work directly with the immigrant refugee populations in their areas where the highest mental health needs exist. Those 4 local organizations are the Cambodian Family in Orange County, which serves all immigrants and refugees in Santa Ana, the Center for Empowering Refugees and Immigrants in Alameda County, which serves Southeast Asian communities affected by war, torture, and genocide. Level Up NorCal in Shasta County, which serves Latinx communities, and BPSOS, Center for Community Advancement in Orange County, which serves Vietnamese immigrants and refugees. 1 state level advocacy organization was awarded to work closely with the local level organizations. This contract was awarded to California Pan-Ethnic Health Network in Alameda County. They will provide support to the local organizations and advocate for the needs of immigrants and refugees at the state level. The commission is excited to begin work with these organizations. There is a summary available in the handout packet, which provides more information on these programs of our committees to make updates on their activities. So if we could please begin with Vice Chair Alvarez, and then we will proceed with Commissioner Danovich and Tamplin to provide their updates.
Thank you, Chair Madrigal-Weiss. The Cultural and Linguistic Competency Committee met on May 12th. We had the opportunity to actually further discuss the racial equity plan. We heard a presentation from Dr. Anna Nafee on the plan, and the committee discussed next steps regarding strategies to involve the committee in the collaboration efforts with the commission's contracted stakeholders, really trying to create space and conversation for figuring out how we can commit to the racial equity plan together. We're looking forward to the July meeting when we will discuss as a full commission that draft racial equity plan. In addition to the discussion on the plan, we also heard from Dr. Lawford Goddard from the Association of Black Psychologists. Dr. Goddard's presentation really focused on an array of subjects focused on Black communities, and in particular, the link between mental health and well-being in Black culture. He touched on the lack of much needed funding for mental health services for Black communities in particular, cultural barriers that exist between clinicians in Black communities, and the need for Black mental health professionals, as well as therapeutic approaches that would better value Black culture. Part of the discussion also focused on the challenges that many smaller organizations have in accessing funding, a recurrent theme that's come up in the committee's discussion. This discussion was particularly relevant as we were discussing the racial equity plan, again, to really discuss how we can explore avenues to make the OAC grants more equitable and accessible to smaller organizations led by people of color. Dr. Goddard was actually one of the committee's first equity in action presenters. Moving forward, we'd like to have a component of our agenda focus on equity in action as it relates to mental health services and care delivery. Our goal is for each of our meetings to feature these organization representatives, again, to not only educate committee members and raise awareness, but to find opportunities for the commission to support such efforts moving forward. Again, when we want to operationalize that racial equity plan, we need to look no further than many of the local leadership that's already happening in this work. Our next CLCC meeting will be held on July 14th, and we look forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I would ask Commissioner Danovich.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm here online.
Yes, okay. I'm a little thrown. I know. Okay, so we're half in person, half virtually. So how does this go?
Yeah, it's good to see you all in this new hybridized format. Are you able to hear me okay? Are you able to hear me okay? Hello?
1 second, Commissioner Danovich. We can't hear you.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Hello, hello, hello.
I can hear you online, Itai.
Okay, good to hear that.
Apparently they can't. Hi.
Maybe it's better that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can hear you also, Ita.
Okay, hi, Bill.
Can I invite Commissioner Kaplan to go first? Or are we? Okay. Anybody want to talk about the Golden State Warriors? Just saying. I love them.
Hello, hello.
Janovich?
Not coming through? Hello? Looks like not.
While we work to figure this out.
Commissioner Tamplin, please, you provide your update.
All right. Well, thank you, Chair Madrigal Weiss and everyone. I'll be giving the update on the Client and Family Leadership Committee meeting, which met this Tuesday. That was May 24th from 1 of this week. We addressed two different issues, but related subjects. One was the creation of the Peer Specialist Certification Resource Guide, and the other is the proposed care court legislation. And I'd like to give a specific thank you to all of our presenters who provided updates on the resource guide, our committee members that contributed to that, our public stakeholders that also added to that conversation and shared their perspectives, and including our panelists and presenters on the proposed care court legislation. We are targeting the end of July to complete the draft of the Peer Special Certification Resource Guide. So the guide will include a collection of materials that will assist county behavioral health departments and community-based organizations and peer advocates who are dedicated to peer support services and the implementation of the services within our, not only our Medi-Cal system, but throughout our communities to uplift the field. And we want this resource guide to help bring together the wealth of information, not only in our state, but also across the country, that uplifts the field and provides clarity and guidance to those that want to implement peer support services, whether in the county or a CBO or a school, anywhere. And then we also had, and we have been committed to having the conversation about the care courts. This is a subject that is not new for many of us. Get people. For folks that are new to the subject, this is a very divisive and it also is very, people are passionate on both sides. And we wanted to create the space where brave conversations can happen and that points of views can be heard and discussed and so grateful for our presenters, our panelists, Stephanie Welsh from the California Health and Human Services Agency, Danny Offer from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, California, Damon Shuja Johnson from Blackman Speak, Kim Peterson from Disability Rights California, and Shanique Williams from Dignity Empower Now. Again, we had a robust conversation about the subject. And I think it's, outside of this meeting, this is one of the hottest subjects within the peer and family communities, I think in the provider communities also. And one of the things that I emphasize is that this is not about family versus individual, right? This is about, we're all on the same team trying to figure out how to solve complex problems. And we want to find solutions. I think, Commissioner Gordon, thank you for saying earlier that, the forces that divide us push us apart. But when we can come together and take responsibility and have these kind of tough conversations that need to happen, the opportunity to be heard and come up with the right solutions rise up. And when I think a lot of feelings come from not having that opportunity. A lot of frustration happens from that, not having that opportunity. And the committee expressed how they all support voluntary services, but also that right now the care courts, everybody knows this, it's being rushed through our systems. And there is a lot of hurt when that happens, because especially from Black and Brown communities that disproportionately get targeted by involuntary and coercive services, it doesn't feel good when things are not inclusive of those voices. So I share that to be as neutral as possible. I do have an opinion, but I know also this has gone through in my community with AB 1421, assisted outpatient treatment, also in the peer community called involuntary outpatient treatment. There's all kinds of ways we can look at this issue. The bottom line comes to it: when our communities are suffering and struggling, it takes our community to come together and find solutions. Additional court systems are very complex and complicated when and how it impacts Black and Brown communities is what at the highlight of what our conversation at the Client and Family Leadership Committee. Again, we're the Client and Family Leadership Committee, so we're committed to client and family members coming together to address this, to not be divided, to talk about it, and to work together, because we see when we're divided, none of us win. So hopefully the commitment is that we are going to continue the conversation. And I know the commission is dedicated to bringing these kind of subjects to light and finding ways to highlight better solutions. So I thank you for the opportunity to create that space for all the committee members. It was Commissioner Chambers' first committee as chair. I was the chair of the CFLC as a commissioner on the CFLC. We all have a lot of opinions on it, and you will continue to hear that. And is that my time? I get it now. I won't be quiet. So thank you.
Hey.
That was sweet. Yeah. Thank you.
It is a passionate subject from so many point of views, as mothers, as sisters, as daughters. It affects many of our lives. So I appreciate your leadership on this. We will continue to have conversations about it, and we are not. We want to make sure that we continue to have the space for it. So thank you for your leadership on this.
Recording in progress.
I am going to ask if Commissioner Danovich, are we prepared to hear him now?
I am here. Are you able to hear me?
Okay, I think so, and let's go with that.
Are you able to hear me? Can I get a signal if you can hear me?
No, we're not.
No.
All right, so we are going to go ahead. Commissioner Danovich, I am so sorry. We will get the update in writing. And we will make sure that it is in the packet thereafter. I'm sorry, my friend. It's just, give us grace. It's our first time here. So I think we're doing a great job so far. So we're going to move along with that. At this time then, thank you, all my commissioners, for your comments, your updates. And I am going to move on to public comment instruction. So if anyone is interested in making public comment regarding the announcements or other items, please make those during the general public comment time. Commissioners, if you leave the teleconference meeting for any reason and decide to rejoin, please make sure you use the raise hand function so commission staff can make you a co-host again for those of you online. Obviously, if you have a comment to provide, please unmute your line and seek recognition when it is convenient. Lastly, if you have any technical questions, please contact Amariani at AMARINI.Martinez, MARTINEZ @mhsoac.ca.gov. At this time, I will ask Amariani to go over the public comment procedures.
Raise hand icon on your computer or the app, or if calling in by phone, push *9. You will be placed in a queue comment on that agenda item. When it is your turn, the moderator will unmute your line and announce for the last 3 digits of your telephone number. Are unmuted, we are able to hear you. We will do our best to take comments in the order they are received. Please note, once the public comment period for the agenda item starts, we will close the public comment queue. The moderator will insert the word "last comment" next to the commenter's name or number to identify the last public comment. So please make requests to comment as early as possible. Members of the public should be prepared to complete their comments within 3 minutes or less, depending on time constraints. When we have reached the end of your time, our staff will let you know, but we will let you finish your thoughts. We don't mean to cut you off, but we do want to help everyone keep time. We truly appreciate your understanding with this process. Lastly, if there are any members of the public using translation technology, please notify the chair, and at least twice the amount of time will be given to you during the public comment period. A live meeting transcription or closed captioning is available for anyone participating in the meeting. If that option is not currently visible, please activate the closed captioning feature located in the control bar at the top right or at the top or bottom of your screen. Chair, I hand it off to you.
Or the app, or if by calling in, or if calling by phone, push *9. You will be placed in a queue to comment on that agenda item. When it is your turn to comment, the moderator will unmute your line and announce your name or the last 3 digits of your telephone number. When you are unmuted, we are able to hear you. We will do our best to take comments in the order that they are received. Please note, once the public comment period for the agenda item starts, we will close the public comment queue. The moderator will insert the word "last comment" next to the commenter's name or number to identify the last public comment. So please make requests to comment as early as possible. Members of the public should be prepared to complete their comments within 3 minutes or less, depending on time constraints. When we have reached the end of your time, our staff will let you know, but we will let you finish your thoughts. We don't mean to cut you off, but we do want to help to keep everybody on time. We truly appreciate your understanding with this process. Lastly, if there are any members of the public using translation technology, please notify me, and at least twice the amount of time will be given to you during that public comment period. A live meeting transcription or closed captioning is available for anyone participating in the meeting. If that option is not currently visible, please activate the closed captioning feature located in the control bar at the top of your screen. Wow. Nobody stopped me. I am so off today. You all could have just said, "What you doing?"
We are all.
Okay.
It's important for the public now.
Wow. All right, I'm just gonna keep it real. Really? And it says, thank you, Mariani, which really, thank you, Mata. You just said that all over again. All right, moving on. Here we go. All right. Okay, so where are we? Because I'm so. Sorry, right here. All right, this is the fun part. This is what I was trying to get to, so that's why I rushed. I'm going to go with that. All right, before we go any further in today's meeting, I want to announce that we have a very special guest with us today. If you have been involved in the work of the commission over the past 12 years, then you're aware of the significant impact that Philomena Euroshek, got it? All right, has made on the work and function of the commission. Philomena provided a steady hand on the helm when we didn't quite know where to go or how to proceed in tough circumstances. When I first joined the commission, she became my guide and was always there to answer my questions on policy agendas, meeting rules, you name it. And we had a few laughs along the way. Today, we want to take time to celebrate her, acknowledge her time spent with the commission, and most of all, say a big thank you for your job that was done so very well. I'd like to invite Director Ewing to say a few words and to present a special recognition. But before I do that, I want to say this. Phil, you guided me, the entire time I was here. And I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I would not sit unless I was sitting next to Phil. So she would answer my questions for the 5 years I was here. She was kind. She would answer my texts. She would answer my phone calls. And she truly is of service. And so, helping this team, move us forward, but doing it for the greater good always. She never let that go. So I'm so honored to be here to work with Toby to say a few words. I'm gonna let Toby talk. So let's sit back.
Thanks very much. So Phil, thank you for joining us today. It's very nice to see you. For those of you who do not know Philomena, she's now working as a dean of a law school here in Sacramento. And so she's doing some phenomenal work in making sure that our legal profession is sound. Phil's background included many years of teaching ethics. And so she really brought this very strong perspective of ethics to the work of the commission, really reminding us and guiding us around why we come to work every day, the importance of a public agency, the significance of the oaths that you take to serve, and what it means to do public service for the state of California, particularly in this very difficult space of mental health and well-being. And so, as Mr. Bontrager so aptly pointed out, we really need to reset the agenda and reframe these perspectives around mental health and well-being, and this commission is doing that. As the chair says, when I joined the commission, there were a handful of people who really provided those lane markers, right, for me as well, and Phil very much has done that. And please recognize that in addition to others, Phil really led the work on regulations around prevention, early intervention, and innovation. And what makes that so important is that this aspect of the law in California is unique. We know of no other place in this country and none other in the world where there is this level of investment in innovation. And someone had to lead the effort to define what that meant. And it's the statute is clear that they were going to leave it up to the commission to figure out. And so the commission left it up to Phil to figure out. And she did a phenomenal job. Similarly, with prevention and early intervention. And although we have very strong and well agreed to understandings of prevention in other aspects of healthcare, we really don't have shared understanding of what prevention means. And so this task of having to work through a public process to translate vague and in some places, vague statute and areas of tension in the statute into the specific words of regulation is an enormous undertaking. She had some help, but she very much was in charge of that work. And that work continues to guide this commission's work and work around the state of California in these two domains. She's done many other things. She helped shepherd the commission's establishment of a trademark, the first trademark that this commission holds for the Youth Alcove program, which is a model program being introduced into this country from originally from Australia, but it is in about half a dozen nations. And so again, very groundbreaking work. So in recognition, Phil, we have a resolution for you. Yeah, just because otherwise the mic's not gonna work. So come on up. So I'm not going to read this because it's quite long. And this is you know, in the past, we have had resolutions and recognitions that were prepared for the commission by members of the legislature. But in talking with the chair, we talked about, you know, what is important. And what she said is that it is spending time with each other, with commissioners and with the team. And so, again, it's very lengthy and it lays out all of the accomplishments that you've made. But thank you very much for everything that you have done for this commission and for the state of California and the people in the state who are working to better understand and address mental health and well-being needs. So on behalf of the commission, we're going to give you this wonderful resolution, and there's a gift as well.
Okay, we got Kleenex.
The work, the mission accomplished a lot. Still a lot to be done, but there is hope and resilience and perseverance. And I have taken my my experience with the commission to the law school and brought forth the idea that wellness is all body, mind, emotion, and that it is not, you know, it is okay to talk about your mental health. It is actually more than okay. It is absolutely imperative that we have a space. And so I'm very proud to have brought this to the law school. You know, law students and attorneys aren't well known for wanting to deal with some of these issues. We had to have a legislation passed a few years back to allow, to prevent the state bar from getting medical records in terms of mental health records, because attorneys were not going and getting help because they thought that would hurt their chances. And so I'm so honored, I'm so proud, and I love you as a wonderful family, and I really, truly miss being with you guys. Toby texted me and he goes, "Do you miss this?" And I said, yes, because I don't miss the technical challenges, but I miss just listening and seeing how much you guys are moving forward, how much really is continuing to be accomplished. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I'd like to open it up to any of my fellow commissioners who would like to say a few words to Phil. Please do. Not be too long, but Phil, thank you so much. I mean, you have been so gracious, so supportive, not only to us as commissioners, but I remember when I first started in 2009, I was a committee member and of the Client and Family Leadership Committee, and you were there in those committee meetings helping every single one of us.
It didn't matter what our positions were. Your heart is in the right place. Your heart is with helping people and helping, you know, us navigate complex, you know, systems and policies and procedures, and also just guiding us with your wisdom and, you know, your experience, knowledge, and your heart. Just built such a environment that encouraged people to seek that support from you. And that matters because sometimes, we all need that guidance, and we know you can go to someone that gives you that respect and listens and helps you understand, whatever, whether it's, Form 700 or something else, you brought all of that. You were available all the time. And thank you. Thank you for, I always loved it when we showed up to the commission and I'm like, I have that dress also. In addition to the wisdom you bring, I love the connections you've made. And I feel like it's going to last obviously a lifetime. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you too. When I started, you were the most welcoming person, and you made me feel like I belonged here and I had a voice and to use my voice. And like Mara, you would sit there, then Mara, then I'd sit by her, and I would pass my questions down, and we would just whisper back and forth to each other. The Form 700, I don't think I've ever filled it out by myself. I don't understand it. I'm still able to text you, so I appreciate you. I appreciate your heart. I miss you, but I'm so happy for your students because they are amazingly lucky to have you. Thank you for everything.
Building on what I'm not going to repeat, but still, I just want to send my deepest appreciation. I think it was opened up, by our chair that these roles are public service, and many of us, when we start these positions, we have no idea what we're doing, and understand the great responsibility that's placed on us. And we can only be successful just a little bit in these positions if we have the support of incredible staff, and that was definitely from the very beginning. On the little things like the forms to the very big things about what is even pepperoni. And to know that your students have that model of leadership to follow is incredibly inspiring and gratifying to know that our future legal workforce will have into it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much. So at this time, we are going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to look at some audio issues and we'll come back
In 5 minutes. So thank you. 5-minute break. Yes? Okay. I keep stuffing my face.
Yeah, I've worked with general counsels. She's a coach, a problem solver, it's not a referee. A lot of times people think it's supposed to be a referee.
Right. No,
There's no answers a lot of times.
Oh my God. It was great. I thought it was from Phil to me. I don't know. You guys got time to do a hug. I know. Tomorrow. Oh my God. You know what you're doing?
Okay. Sorry. Let's focus on what you're doing. Yeah. So Onyx out to you now.
Hello? Hello? Are you able to hear me? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
No, it's Councilman right now. She's talking on Zoom right now, and the mic's open. Okay. It's working. Okay.
It's working? But will we be able to hear?
In the room, can you hear me? This is Ramona.
Ramona, no, I don't think currently in the room, they can't hear anyone on Zoom. And so I think
Okay.
down on solution. Sorry, folks, for the technical difficulties. I think we're gonna get it figured out at some point. But thank you for your patience as we figure this out.
Can you hear him?
No, not on Zoom. He's talking right now, nothing's coming through.
I can hear you, Mariani.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
I can hear you
maybe
too,
we've
Cody.
got it. I can hear you. You can hear me. That's a good sign.
Maureen? Okay, so my voice is now coming through in there.
Cody, this is Commissioner Brown. I can hear you also.
You can hear me, Commissioner Brown. That is great news. Thank you for your patience, everyone on Zoom. We are getting this dialed in. I think we may have it.
I can hear you too, Cody. It's Ramona.
Yep, same with me, Itai.
This is very much like your own. If we don't understand something.
Lord, you gotta eat. I was like, I can't, people, I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Okay. Oh.
And then apparently like the power. So like, there was three. Oh, this morning. I thought it might have affected.
No.
So the restaurant was like, we have.
There.
At this time, I am going to ask our chief counsel. One moment. Have another, how about those Warriors moment? We will get back to this. Okay. We're just waiting on our chief counsel to get here, so here she is. All right, back to our program. Maureen, I'm going to ask you to please take roll.
Absolutely. Commissioner Madrigal Weiss.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Alvarez.
Here.
Commissioner Islami Tomlin.
Here.
Commissioner Bontrager.
Here.
Commissioner Boyd. Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Bunch.
Here.
Commissioner Carnavale. Commissioner Carrillo. Commissioner Chambers.
Present.
Commissioner Chen. Commissioner Cortese. Commissioner Danovich.
Here.
Commissioner Gordon.
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Roulette. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Maureen. It is now time for general public comment. This time is reserved for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Again, I would like to remind everyone, if you I'm good to go here, right? Yes. Now I'm second guessing myself, but I'm going to move on. If you wish to make public comment, click the raise hand button on your computer or app, or if calling in by phone, push *9. If you would like to comment on a specific agenda item, please wait until that agenda item starts. Then raise your hand or push *9. Once the public comment period for the agenda item starts, we will close the public comment queue. So please make any requests for general public comment now. Please be prepared to complete your comments within 3 minutes or less. If there are any members of the public using translation technology, please let me know and we will make sure that you have sufficient time to make public comments. Amariane, please open the line for general public comment now.
Stacy, your line is open. You may go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Stacy Hiramoto with REMCO, the Racial and Ethnic Mental Health Disparities Coalition. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. First, I would really like to thank the Commission for commending and having a special section for Philomena. I can say from the community that she was always respectful, courteous, and helpful to us. And she, her praise, your praise for her is well deserved. I would also like to welcome the new Commissioner Chambers. I assume that you introduced her, although we could not hear the beginning comments, but her reputation is very well known in the community, and her work for Painted Brain is renowned and well known, and I look forward to working with her. REMCO welcomes her. I would also like to thank the Commission once again for listening to the community and having a statewide contractor for the refugee and immigrant. We have wanted this for years, and we are happy that you listen to the community and that you put this feature into the new round of proposals. Lastly, I would like to say that I hope the Commission takes a position on care courts Remco has an opposed position, but our position has become much stronger because the new amendments to the bill will allow MHSA dollars to go to this, to care courts and the programming. And the MHSA was really meant for upstream prevention and not for programs that are coercive or in any way, or for institutional type programs. So although everyone deserves help, this is not where I believe the money should go, and it's not where the MHSA was intended. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Next, we have Rakaya. Your line is open. You may go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Rakaya Ahmed. I'm a policy fellow with the California Pan-Ethnic Health Network. I wanted to say congratulations and welcome to Commissioner Chambers for joining the commission. I really admire her work, and I'm excited to continue working with her in the MHSOAC context. I also just wanted to say thank you to the commission for the intent to award CPEN, the statewide immigrant and refugees advocacy contract. We really look forward to continuing working with the commission on the project, and we're really excited to just continue the partnership as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laurel, your line is open. You may go ahead.
Good morning. This is Laurel Ben Hamida. I'm a member of the Remco Steering Committee and have been representing Mass SSF, Muslim American Society Social Services Foundation, often in public comment. Thank you, Philomena, for your work and good luck in the future. We have a lot of refugees who could use pro bono lawyer services. So there's a suggestion. I want to thank the CLCC chairman and staff. The presentation at the last CLCC meeting on community-based organizations and African immigrant, Caribbean immigrant issues was high quality, and we need more of those. So I'm appreciative of that. As for Care Court, it is a difficult subject, and it is kind of divisive within our community. What I've been saying is that I find the term Care Court is a kind of an oxymoron. Court inspires dread, not confidence, to many who have lived the experience with courts. So I find that annoying and troublesome, and summarizing a lot of the public media presentation of Care Court. We know that, especially among the immigrants and refugees that I try to speak for, from countries like Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, that the use of psychiatry to punish dissidents has been one cause of pain and torture and PTSD. And we have ever more immigrants and refugees now from the former Soviet Union, where the use of psychiatry to punish dissidents is maybe even more well known among the general American population. This morning, I had the honor to meet a young man who's just come from the Ukraine, and he's with his cousin, and he's got to go to work. He doesn't have time to learn any English, and all he can do is smile. But I think if you said Care Court to him, he would be, nervous. Court just doesn't sound like a good thing, and psychiatry and the courts doesn't sound like a good combination from people from the former Soviet Union. And so I would just summarize that today, and thank you very much for giving us time to make comment on these different issues today.
Thank you.
And that was the last of our public comment.
Thank you, Mariani. So now that we have resolved, hopefully, our technical issues, I would like to introduce our newest Commissioner, Rachel Chambers. We spent some time together last night. As far as I'm concerned, we are comadres already. I would ask, so I want to introduce Rachel and also to announce that we have two reappointments, Commissioner Hunch and Commissioner Gordon. So we're very happy about that. So thank you so much for staying on with that, but staying on with us. Commissioner Chambers, would you like to say a few words, please?
Yes. Hello, I just want to say I'm very honored to serve in this role, particularly because of my lived experience and my abilities to be able to listen to communities across our great state and to elevate the voice of individuals that are consumers and family members. I'm just, as a public administrator, it's always been my goal to, lead with integrity and service to others. And I want to be held accountable and to be transparent and to elevate the voice of Californians that are underserved and underrepresented. So please continue to join these meetings, continue to hold me accountable, continue to talk to me so that I can come to these spaces and elevate our voice. And I'm just so honored to serve in this role, and I won't let you down. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The commission will now consider approval of the minutes from April 28th, 2022 from our teleconference meeting. At this time, members of the public may request to make a public comment on the item by clicking the raise hand button on your computer or the app, or if calling in, again, *9. Once the public comment period for this agenda item starts, we will close the public comment queue, so please make your request to comment now. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments at this time regarding those minutes?
I see no public comment.
Any
Oh, sorry.
from our commissioners online?
No.
No, okay. And seeing none here, are there any public comments?
No, there are no public comments.
Okay. I'm sorry, public comment in the room? Seeing none. Mariani, I will ask then, commissioners, do we have a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Gordon. Any additional questions or comments from our commissioners? There weren't any in the first place, so I think we're good to move on. And Chief Counsel, please call roll.
Alrighty. Commissioner Bontrager. Commissioner Boyd. Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Bunch.
Aye.
Commissioner Connor Valley. Commissioner Carrillo. Commissioner Chambers.
Abstain.
Commissioner Chen. Commissioner Cortese. Commissioner Danovich.
Abstain.
Commissioner Gordon.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Roulette.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamplin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Alvarez.
Aye.
Chair Madrigal Weiss.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2. The items calendared for consent. This includes approval for innovation projects from Kern, Tri-City, and Contra Costa counties. Commission staff has sent the documents related to these projects to all commissioners at the time the May agenda was posted, and a copy of the staff summaries have been provided in your packets. Just a quick reminder that any commissioner can ask to have an item on the consent calendar removed and considered as a regularly scheduled agenda item. Members of the public may request to make a public comment on item 2 by clicking the raise hand button on your computer or the app, or by pressing *9 on your phone. Once the public comment period starts, we will close the public comment queue, so please make requests to comment now or as early as possible during the presentation. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments at this time? Mariani, any online? Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I would like to recluse myself.
Thank you, Commissioner. On this item, yes, thank you, Commissioner. Are there any commissioners' questions or comments? No, none online. Thank you. Are there any public comments? Please raise your hand now as the queue will be closing. Any public comments in the room? No one raised? No, there are not. Thank you. So seeing no public comments, no commissioner questions or comments, at this time, I would ask for a motion.
So
to
moved.
Consent calendar. Thank you. Is that Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I heard 2 seconds.
Who was the second, please?
This is Al Roulette.
Thank you, Commissioner Rolette. Chief Counsel, please call roll.
Certainly. Commissioner Bontrager. Commissioner Boyd. Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Bunch.
Aye.
Commissioner Carnavale. Commissioner Carrillo. Commissioner Chambers. Commissioner Chen. Commissioner Cortese. Commissioner Danovich.
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Rolette.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamplin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Alvarez.
Aye.
Chair Madrigal Weiss.
Approved.
The motion passes.
Thank you. All right, moving to item 3, Orange County Innovation Project Approval. For agenda item 3, the commission will consider approval of $12 million in innovation spending authority for Orange County's examining whether integrating early intervention services into specialized court improves the well-being of justice-involved young adult men, a randomized controlled trial innovation project. We will be hearing a presentation from Sharon Ishikawa, who is the research manager for mental health and recovery services at the Orange County Healthcare Agency. Commissioners, you were provided with the staff analysis and PowerPoint for this presentation, and the materials also posted on the MHSOAC website. We're excited to discuss this innovation project. Members of the public may request to make a public comment on item 3 by clicking the raise hand button on your computer or the app, or by pressing *9 on your phone. Once the public comment period starts, we will close the public comment queue. So please make requests to comment now or as early as possible during this presentation. Sharon, good to see you again. Thank you for being here. To ensure that we have enough time for discussion, we ask that you limit your remarks to about 5 minutes so that we can focus on questions and discussions with you. So with that, please.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And while I'm here at the table alone, it was a team effort to bring this project to life and to bring the proposal before the commission in our presentation today. And so thank you for your time. And it's wonderful to see you in person. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So the US legal system processes and sanctions young adults and mature adults in the same way. Yet if we look at this through a developmental and neuroscience lens, young adults are actually more similar to adolescents than they are to adults, likely resulting in a mismatch between their developmental needs and capacity for change and the ways in which the legal system treats them. Young adulthood is also a time of navigating critical life transitions, such as finishing school, getting a job, living independently, becoming a parent, and navigating romantic partnerships. These things are hard for just about everyone at this age, but it's even harder for those with a felony record because that felony itself automatically narrows opportunities for employment, education, and sometimes even housing. Finally, 2/3 to 3/4 of justice-involved young adults experience significant risk factors, such as being the victim of or witness to serious violence or living with a mental health condition. To address these gaps, Dr. Elizabeth Kaufman, professor at UC Irvine, partnered with the Superior Court of California in Orange County, the District Attorney's Office, the Public Defender, and the Probation Department to pilot a specialized court, the Young Adult Court. This collaboration began in 2018, and over the course of this initial pilot, the program sometimes struggled to fully meet the participants' needs for mental health, co-occurring substance use, and supportive services. While young adult courts exist in different jurisdictions within California and across the United States, what makes the Orange County Young Adult Court unique is that its implementation is being evaluated through a randomized controlled trial, or RCT. An RCT is widely considered to be the gold standard of empirical research, and the precision of this evaluation design allows for robust analyses related to our learning objectives. Namely, compared to traditional court, does the young adult court's developmentally appropriate and client-centered interventions reduce the negative outcomes related to mental health or substance use conditions, promote positive socioeconomic outcomes, or reduce recidivism? If the young adult court is effective, can we tell why it works? And does participating in the young adult court have greater positive impact on young men of color than it does on young white men? Or do young men of color who participate in the young adult court experience better outcomes compared to young men of color in traditional court? Next slide, please. Young adults are eligible for the Orange County Young Adult Court if they're 18 to 25 years old, male, live and are charged in Orange County, and are charged with an eligible felony offense, with eligible offenses having been determined and set by the court and district attorney's office. Consistent with other justice settings, men of color are disproportionately represented in the pilot, which is why we're especially interested in looking at what effects, if any, this program has on reducing disparity.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, Sharon. I just want to make sure, are we looking at the right slide?
No, if you can go back, please. And forward just one. Oh, you know what? If you can go ahead, yes, if you can move forward. Perfect. If we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Young Adult Court is a specialized court offering a 2-year diversion program with a developmental focus that emphasizes supporting young men in achieving key educational and employment milestones with the goal of reducing future justice involvement. It requires their attendance at all court hearings and appointments with their probation officer and case manager. And upon successful completion of the Young Adult Court, the judge may reduce or dismiss the participant's felony charges. Next slide, please. Consistent with existing research in other jurisdictions and justice settings, young men in the Young Adult Court report very high rates of trauma exposure, depression, anxiety, and substance use. While the referrals and case management currently provided have been helpful, young men's life demands and readiness for change have made it challenging for some to attend appointments out in the community regularly. The young men have also consistently expressed interest in gaining hands-on experience in different trades, developing a peer mentorship program for new young adult court participants, and learning parenting skills and money management. As seen here, and in direct response to their requests and feedback, this project will add and expand a range of behavioral health and supportive services, including peer mentoring. In an effort to increase access to and engagement in behavioral health treatment, clinicians will be field-based so that they may meet the young men where they're at rather than relying on referrals to clinic-based services. Next slide, please. Page 2 to 5 of the project proposal describes the study methods in detail, so I won't go into those complexities here, but I would like to highlight a few things. This project is entirely voluntary. Consenting to participate in the research study is separate from consenting to participate in the young adult court interventions itself. That means young men may choose to participate in the young adult court and opt out of the research study. All research procedures are approved by the UC Irvine's IRB prior to implementation, and study procedures are clearly described during the consent process with participants. All participants are compensated for their time, whether they're randomly assigned to the young adult court or to traditional court. All data collected are protected from subpoena by a certificate of confidentiality issued by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. All study procedures will remain the same in the proposed expansion. Innovation funding will be used to increase the number of young men enrolled in the randomized controlled trial from 100 to 300 young men, and to extend the follow-up period from 3 years to 4 more years, depending on when they entered the project. An important element of the young adult court is the dismissal or reduction of all prior felony charges after successful completion of young adult court programming. Thus, the increased data from additional participants and a longer follow-up period will play a critical role in influencing whether the Superior Court and the District Attorney's Office will continue to support charge dismissals and reductions. Next slide, please. The innovation budget for 5 years totals $11.9 million. During community planning, our community members proposed to approve a 5-year total innovation budget not to exceed $12 million to allow for the availability of increased flexible funding for participants if needed. This slide provides projected budget amounts by year and category. And briefly, 44% goes to direct clinical and supportive services for the young men involved in the young adult court, 31% to the randomized controlled trial research study, and 25% to UCI and HCA for indirects, as well as for HCA administration and staffing costs. And can we go back a few slides till we get to the timeline? Thank you. So while HCA is not currently a partner, we're seeking to join this important work through the Innovation Project.
No, it's not.
There, perfect, thank you. Our local community planning process occurred in 2 steps. First, we worked with UC Irvine to enhance and expand the scope of young adult court services in direct response to the young men's requests. Then we engaged in the community planning process outlined here on the slide. But I'd also like to describe 2 details that are not included here on the slide. First, meeting invitations were sent to consumers, family members, mental health and healthcare providers, the faith community, transitional age youth, the Orange County Behavioral Health Advisory Board, former Orange County MHSA steering committee members, law enforcement, justice agencies, and other diverse stakeholder groups. Second, on Tuesday, earlier this week, the Orange County Board of Supervisors unanimously passed the project. And so now we're here seeking your commission's approval. I'd like to conclude this brief overview with the words of Orange County Public Defender Martin Schwartz. There are lots of things wrong with our criminal justice system, but this is right. This is about dispensing hope, not punishment, when hope is what's needed the most. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Can I just,
Sure.
just to clarify, the 12 million is just for the research. It's not for the actual.
It's for both. So if we go back to the estimated, the budget page, 3.7 million will go towards the research staffing, research stipends for participants and so on. That's the lower half of the budget. The top half is actually at 5.2 million over 5 years is for the mental health and supportive services. So that is the funding that would pay for things like apprenticeships, scholarships for the young men. It will fund the peer mentoring, the development and implementation of the peer mentoring program. It will also provide flexible funding to help with job assistance, the parenting classes, transportation support if needed to get to their jobs, to get to any treatment services that they choose to enroll and engage in, and those types of things.
And
housing support.
So you'll keep what's already in existence, right? So the 2-year diversion program with a developmental focus would be a part of it. Can you speak to that a little bit more, what that means?
Yes, so if we can go back to the slide that is titled Young Adult Court Current and Proposed Expansion. Right there, perfect. So in the left part of the slide describes what's currently being implemented through the Young Adult Court in Orange County. And it is largely related and around really kind of the justice and the court proceedings, right? And ensuring the young men who enroll in the young adult court attend all of their hearing dates, that they meet with their probation officer, with their case manager, who is connecting them with available community-based resources. What you'll see in the right hand under behavioral health and supportive services, that will continue. The left hand of the slide will continue through alternate sources of funding, not innovation funding. What innovation funding in that top half of the budget slide for the clinical and supportive services will be funding the behavioral health and supportive services new. So all of the bullet point items that are listed there. So it will provide the field-based, trauma-informed, early intervention, mental health and co-occurring services, the peer mentoring, the development and implementation of the peer mentoring program. So YAC, Young Adult Court Program graduates will mentor new participants who are enrolling into the Young Adult Court. Funding will also be used for apprenticeship training. So the young men expressed lots of interest in getting hands-on training from small business owners, barbers, stylists, tattoo artists, and whatnot to develop out a trade and skill. Financial literacy courses. This was one of the things that the young men expressed routine and consistent feedback that they wished that they had to be able to better plan for their future. Scholarships, additional funding to pursue degrees and certifications. So the funding will go towards that. Childcare resources. So not just parenting classes, but also being able to provide childcare when the young men are attending school, attending work, their appointments. We want to lower the barriers to be able to allow them to be able to access these resources. Housing and transportation vouchers. Again, one of the things that is really clear is if you don't know where you're going to sleep at night, you don't know when your next meal is going to come, or if you'll be able to feed your children, it's really hard to prioritize attending a mental health appointment when those critical issues are pressing down on you. And so this is going to be part of what we would support. And then other services. So one of the things that we learned through the initial pilot is, while we could anticipate we didn't necessarily know everything that the young men might be interested in, and how the community landscape might change over time. And so the funding would also be reserved to be able to provide other resources, other services tailored and designed to meet the young men's unique and individualized needs.
Thank you. Please. Okay, thank you. Thank you for this presentation and for, bringing it to us for discussion. I have a couple questions. One was, what was your community involvement in the development, of this idea? Like, was this a community-driven idea?
In terms of the original pilot between UC Irvine and the Justice collaborators, or with this particular innovation proposal?
Maybe both.
Both. I can speak to the development of the innovation proposal, and then I'll invite Dr. Beth Kaufman up to speak to the development of the original proposal. So this, as I briefly mentioned, we are joining and adding on to an existing project. And we brought it to our community. The expansion of the services that I had just recently just recapped and reviewed on the expansion and the addition of the behavioral health and supportive services came directly and was born out of the implementation of the original pilot with UC Irvine and the Justice Collaborative, coming from the young men who are participating, saying these were the things that we could use, these are the things that we need. And so that's where that portion and all of those bullet point activities and services came from, was speaking to the needs and the requests from the young men who had been participating in the pilot. Through this, we then developed out the proposal and we brought it to our community, as mentioned in the timeline. We were very clear with the community that this was something that was in process and brought it to them in a very transparent fashion about, is this something that you are interested and would support continuing and expanding funding using innovation dollars for? And so that was the nature.
Thank you. That answers that question, actually. And then does Orange County have full service partnerships already? So how does that work where there's a court that is addressing young men of color with mental health issues and Orange County, they're not getting access to Orange County FSPs?
So that's a really excellent question. So our full service partnerships, as you are all aware, serve those who are living with a serious mental health condition. The young men who are involved in young adult court are either at risk due to their trauma exposure, or they're reporting mild to moderate symptoms of anxiety and depression. So they wouldn't qualify given their current level of mental health need for our full service partnerships. And that was really kind of seen as one of the gaps that we'd like to address. And one of the things that we're really kind of looking at, in fact, as we were initially kind of discussing with our community, it was like, it's almost like what we're proposing here, almost in some ways, like a full service partnership, but for those with mild to moderate mental health conditions.
So, I wonder if where the funding from prevention and early intervention actually falls into this category. My perspective of innovation for MHSA is, this is coming from a statewide, talk about care courts, right? And peers that are very active, and young Black men and women and men of color that are saying, our options for those voluntary services such as prevention and early intervention are not being available to us. And that the future of innovation and mental health services to me is not more court orders and more court services, but more prevention and using those dollars to uplift this kind of work. I think innovation is where we want to see California go in, right? And again, my feeling is courts are not where we want to see more behavioral health service being tied up in, but more prevention and early intervention funding. So I understand kind of like the perspectives of how to try to bring funding to support kind of important areas. For me, this just doesn't align with innovation for me personally. So
Thank you for that. And if I may also
Mara, may I make a comment? I don't know if you can see my hand raised. Sorry, I can't tell what the dynamics are in the room.
It's okay, Commissioner. I hear you. So please please.
Okay, thank you. So first, I guess I want to speak to the question that, and thank you for raising it, Commissioner Templin raises about the innovativeness, about what sort of merits a innovation proposal. As vice chair of the innovation subcommittee, innovation initiatives really have two elements. One, that they represent some kind of a solution, which we could think are good solutions or bad solutions, but they're a solution to a problem. And then there's a mechanism to actually evaluate whether the solutions have an impact, so that we can learn from whether the solutions have an impact, what that is, and make determinations about scaling things. When I read this, I hear that there are already individuals that are involved in the criminal justice system, and this is making an effort to add an innovation that takes care of them in a more effective way while they're in that system. And this is feasible because there's already been some innovation in developing this, but what this innovation mechanism actually allows to happen is a formal evaluation. And as I hear the presentation, I want to commend Sharon and the team, because the evaluation proposal that you have made is really compelling. I think it's among the most compelling evaluation proposals that we've ever received in terms of its ability to practically ask and answer the questions at hand, so that at the end of this initiative, it's really possible to say, hey, we're going to learn something about whether this investment of resources actually produces any benefits or not, whether it should be sustained or whether it should be shuttered or whether it should be adapted. And to me, that capacity to do these kinds of evaluations is almost as important, as the substance of the innovation itself, because we're often in a situation where we judge innovation proposals just on the merits of whether we like the service or the solution at hand, without necessarily confidence that when the innovation program is complete, we'll actually have the actual knowledge, the facts, the data at hand to be able to make an informed decision about that and resolve our agreements or lack thereof in terms of what the right strategies are. So I'm really supportive of this, and it is not easy to bring a evaluation like this to fruit, especially given all the sensitivities for this population and in this setting. And I really applaud you, Sharon, and your team in doing so.
Thank you, Commissioner Danovich. I also see Commissioner Brown. You have your hand raised, sir.
I do, and thank you, Chair. Dr. Ishikawa, a few questions for you, please. First of all, would you tell us what are the eligible offenses that this program would be used for?
Thank you for that question. And what I'd like to do actually is invite, sorry, hang on. I'd like to invite Tamika Williams, who's our Deputy District Attorney for Orange County. She oversees the Young Adult Court, and she'll be able to speak to your question more directly.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that question. The ability to address the needs of individuals in this population is critical. I have been a Deputy District Attorney for 15 years. Prior to that, I was a teacher. And what I saw was nothing like the Young Adult Court to support those young men and women 18 to 25 that are in that critical stage. We have our collaborative courts, veterans treatment courts, drug and DUI courts, all of these evidence-based programs that are supported and sustained because of long-term studies that support the efficacy of those programs. All eyes are on Orange County right now, as they were with our collaborative courts 20 years ago. We need to support the evidence-based, robust study so that other district attorneys' offices across the United States will follow suit. We do that. Our primary focus and goal is public safety. So the eligibility component of that, to address your question, sir, is that we have to balance those needs with public safety with the charged crimes that our young adults face. So in doing that, we selected counts or charges that balance those needs. Particularly, all felony charges are eligible, except for some of our most severe charges that involve guns, gang involvement, murder is not eligible, and most of our sexual assault offenses. So a robbery, eligible. An Estes robbery, the taking, we're using force or fear during, your beer runs, so to speak, and things like that. Those are eligible. We try to incorporate all of the crimes that we can, but we limit it to some of the more severe crimes like gun enhancement, gang involvement, or sexual assaults.
Can I just follow up with you on that? So how then are the young people who go through this going to be held accountable for their crimes? You have obviously some very serious crimes here that are eligible for this program. And is there a concern that this could be viewed by the public, by other members of the justice system, by the courts perhaps in other areas, as allowing criminal offenders, albeit young criminal offenders, to escape accountability for serious crimes? And what, if any, role do the victims in these crimes play in other words, is there a restorative approach to this where they are involved in being involved in the decision for someone to go through this alternative to the traditional justice system?
Absolutely. As prosecutors, we have, and the victims have a right under Marsy's Law. We have to inform victims at every stage of the process what is going on, that they are even eligible for this program, that they're being considered for this program. We have victims that are have victim witness advocates that help these victims participate in the process if they choose to. They can come make a victim impact statement before Judge Maria Hernandez, who presides over the court. They can, and I facilitate that with the victims. We make sure that the victims are whole with restitution. We have all of those things that are ordered as part of the court. And what we found is that victims who initially were not in agreement with the program, they chose to participate, they chose to show up. It's an open court. And they are fully supportive in witnessing the program. They are fully supportive of it. They can see others that are in the program, and then they can give their opinion to the court. We also have victims that are very supportive. They know that they have been victimized, they are harmed, but they want to see support for these young men so that going forward, we can reduce recidivism and support them with the services they need so there will not be victims in the future. So to answer your question, absolutely. The victims are involved in the process as much as they would like to be, and they are made whole with restitution. And then those in a restorative way, our participants are held accountable and participate in this program so that they can not come back to the system.
I appreciate that. And can you answer the first part of my question there in terms of the perception issue, and is maybe a little bit more detail? Are offenders who are in this 2-year diversion program, are they supervised by probation? Are they going to be sanctioned if they commit new offenses while they're under this supervision?
Absolutely. So much like our other collaborative courts, we have what we call, from a DA perspective, we have what we call a fallout offer. Every single participant pleads into the court. They plead to the charges. And if they successfully complete the program in 2 years, through supervision, there is a dedicated probation officer to the court. We collaborate with the public defender's office, the DA's office, and all of the other partners to provide those services. But if they commit new offenses, or they do not engage and follow through with the 4 phases of the program, they will not graduate, and sentence is imposed. So there is accountability on all levels. If they participate in the program, they can graduate, but if they choose not to, or they commit new offenses, they're held accountable and sentences imposed.
Thank you. And then one last question for perhaps this one for Dr. Ishikawa. In the staff report that we received, it mentioned that the interagency collaborative group included, it says police department. I don't know if that meant the Irvine Police Department or what it meant, but it is conspicuously absent from your presentation today as having the police as a part of this collaboration. Is that, are they no longer supportive of this, or is that?
That was a typo. So the PD did not refer, I believe, to the police department. It refers to the public defender's office. So the public defender is written into our proposal, and we don't actually reference the Irvine Police Department in our proposal.
Has there been any attempt to get either any of the police agencies or the Orange County Sheriff's Office part of this collaborative?
So I'd like to invite Frank Davis, who's the director of our alternate public defender's office and who also oversees the young adult court, to address your question.
Good morning, Commission. Frank Davis, Director of the Alternate Defender's Office in Orange County. Thank you for the time today. Couple issues. That was a typo. And I actually found out the other day when I read it, and I was like, wait a second, the public defender's not even mentioned. They put the police department in there by accident. One of our stakeholders is Orange County Sheriff's Department, as they are involved in the court system. They are involved in transporting our clients to and from court, and they also are in the court at all times. So we have collaborated with Orange County Sheriff's Department. In reference to police departments, they are also involved indirectly through AB 109, which is another legislation that was passed in Sacramento. And there is a representative from the police department that sits on our AB 109 committee. The AB 109 committee is aware of young adult court and is fully participated and on board with young adult court. The other thing too, and I in reference to the other question about accountability, we do have step-up sanctions, which is common for community courts. If individuals miss an appointment or do something that the case managers, the probation officer think is not in line with their programming, there is graded sanctions. It could be from writing essays, it could be from community service, it could be GPS ankles, which we've had clients put in. It also could be what we call flash incarceration, which is authorized in Sacramento, where our clients can be taken in for anywhere up to 10 days. And then also probation violations. Every client that is in young adult court is on probation. They are supervised by the Orange County Probation Department, and we also have caseworkers. So young adult court actually has more eyes on our individuals than the standard probation because they have caseworkers. They are coming to court usually once a month, sometimes every 2 weeks. So in reference to eyes on our clients, it actually is more intense through young adult court. I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you very much. Thank both of you or all three of you for the response.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. So I have Vice Chair Alvarez who'd like to make a comment, and then I believe Commissioners Bunch and Commissioner Tamplin would also like to make a comment. So please, Vice Chair.
Great. I just want to make a comment. So if I'm understanding correctly, young adult court was already in place, and part of the process of young adult court was to refer to behavioral health services or other community supports and services. What this proposal is doing is actually putting in place the partnership to make that warm handoff real in community supports and housing vouchers and transportation. And one thing that I'm hearing in this conversation is a whole person approach to taking care of this community and ensuring that we reduce recidivism, but that we also promote well-being for these young people and put them on the path to success. Instead of, the school to prison pipeline or all the other things that disproportionately impact men of color in particular, but communities of color more broadly. So that is fantastic. I want to make sure we say that out loud because, again, we are having this conversation within the silo of the mental health system. We are having that same conversation in our broader healthcare system, the same conversation in the community schools discussion and the education system. We're all trying to do the same thing, really wrap around people and meet all of their needs in order to help them as whole beings. So I want to put that on the record. And hopefully, I hope Orange County is using whatever data comes out of this rigorous evaluation is cross-sector application of the data, right? What does this do to our health department, our education department, our justice department? And really thinking holistically about those impacts. I think, that would be valuable data, not only for your county, but for the state and nation as a whole. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Bunch.
Yes. I think earlier you said mild to moderate mental health concerns. Is there a specific qualifying diagnosis that people have to have And is there any medication component?
So that will be so medication component if clinically indicated would be partly what would be funded through the funding and supporting the mental health and behavioral health services. There is no requirement for a mental health diagnosis to be part of the young adult court. And kind of addressing your question and speaking to it, Commissioner Alvarez had just said, this is absolutely formalizing a partnership, bringing the healthcare agency formally to the table to be part of these, part of this, to take a holistic approach. In its prior iteration or its initial pilot that began in 2018 and has been launching since then, the young men as mental health needs were identified. The case managers working on the project would refer to community-based available resources and make the linkage through that. There wasn't a formal partnership with the healthcare agency. And in fact, our office actually wasn't even aware this program was in existence until relatively recently. So in terms of one of the primary purposes in the mental health space, right, is it's promoting an interagency and community collaboration related to mental health services and supports and outcomes. This is one of the primary purposes that this, in terms of the innovation regulations that this project will be seeking and serving. So a diagnosis is not required, but because it had originally been set up as a randomized controlled trial and the men were completing surveys, structured interviews and questions where the UCI research and evaluation team was learning about all different kinds of aspects of these young men's lives, that's when the rates of trauma exposure, mild to moderate depression and anxiety really kind of surfaced. And the level of support that they had built into their original grants, which are expiring, one's expiring in June of this year, the other, again, for the behavioral health services and piece, and the research evaluation piece is expiring in December of this year. It wasn't sufficient to be able to support the needs that were being identified for the young men through the course of this project. Speaking to, I think a few of my colleagues have referenced that all eyes are on Orange County for the young adult court. In part, it's because there is no rigorous evidence basis in existence right now for young adult courts. Young adult courts exist, but no young adult court has gone through a randomized controlled trial. So any evaluation findings in other courts cannot necessarily with conviction attribute any successes to the interventions provided by the existing young adult courts that exist within California or across the United States. This is a highly unique opportunity right now to actually set groundbreaking evidence bases for young adult courts. Also, because of the randomized controlled trial and increasing the number of young men that could be that can be served in the court and who would consent to enroll in the project. We'd also then be able to have the statistical rigor. It would increase the power of the analyses to be able to identify, are there specific components or interventions offered within the young adult court that are particularly effective? Why is that important? Because as we face diminishing resources or challenges for funding, being able to say, this piece is most effective. This piece or this intervention is most effective for this group of young men is maybe not as effective for this group of young men, but this is effective and people can make better courts across young adult courts and agencies across the country would be able to make more effective, efficient use of their funding to be able to serve and better support the young men at a really critical juncture in their lives. This is helping to build them with a foundation in education and employment and re-engaging, connecting with their communities, their local communities, and helping encourage and support them on that track as opposed to bringing them in and keeping them locked into the justice track instead.
Thank you, Sharon, and Commissioner Templin, please.
Yes, thank you. I think, I know a lot of what I've heard family members in terms of advocacy for this has been using the courts to hold the counties accountable to provide these services, right? Because I want to make it clear the services are not what the peer communities are. I am against. We want services. We need these supports for our community, for this population. Prevention and early intervention is the right source for this kind of project. And so I hear that the courts are being used to hold the counties accountable to provide the services to the population. And then, this idea of the county coming together to partner with the courts to provide and research this. I think that, again, I think it's important just to share that the courts from the peer community, from the community of Black and Brown that have spoken with lived experience, have been sharing and have been adding to this conversation, is that you don't need the coercion to get acceptance into the services. So how I see in my understanding of innovation, criteria also is each commissioner has the right to say what they feel is innovative and what's not, and we all have exercised that right on many occasions. And so in my opinion, again, I hear funding is ending, right, for some of these programs or projects. And this is an innovative idea to bring funding into it. And my feeling is the future, innovation is about the future also of the mental health system. And I, as a person with lived experience who has experienced mental health challenges, I don't think the future is more money into the courts. I think more prevention and early intervention. And yes, the communities agree. They want to help hold the counties accountable to make that available and not have, criteria that prevents these young men from accessing that voluntary service, because the courts are still seen as coercive. So I had to express my opinion on that. And then I am curious about the 4 phases of the program. I don't know how much time we have or what we want to add to it, but that what happens if you don't successfully complete the 4 phases is one that I'm, just.
Sharon, I would just ask, thank you, Commissioner Templin, if you could just answer that question very succinctly about the 4 phases, just what would happen if they do not complete those?
Okay. What I'd like to do is invite Dr. Elizabeth Kaufman, the professor from UC Irvine, and principal investigator for the project.
If you could just answer that question for us, just for the sake of time. So the question is, what would happen if they do not complete that 4 phase?
Well, hi, thank you so much for having me. I think as Tamika Williams, our deputy DA, said, if they don't complete the 4 phases or they don't follow up correctly, they are terminated from the program. So you can be terminated from the program.
Bullet point 4 phases, what they are.
So first is to do the engagement. So building rapport, following through on things. The second is making the transition to filling out what your goals are. So have you done the enhancement of that goal? Third phase is to being able to sustain that goal. Are you able to manage it? And then the 4th phase is finally your own ability to do without the service holding on to you. So it's really a progressive need based on that individual. They do a goal plan to start, and then that goal plan is followed throughout their 4 phases.
I just want to say one thing, as commissioners, I don't think we're debating the court. The court's in existence. We are approving expanding the court to incorporate more behavioral health supports and services. So in the language of public health, if we don't like the courts, this is a harm reduction approach. This is strengthening the court that's already in place, right? Because regardless if we approve you or not, the young adult court is happening in Orange County. So I think in the spirit of wanting to strengthen whatever infrastructure you have, whether we agree with it or not.
Yeah, and I
wanna keep
speak
that
very
bigger
much
picture in
and hear very much what the commissioner is saying.
Yeah.
As a researcher, prevention, intervent, we want to start here. We don't want to be using our courts as surrogate mental health hospitals. That's not ever what we want to do. As a researcher who's been doing this for 20 years,
watching how the court system treats people in the system, we need to do something different. Watching what's been happening, and based on the research I've been doing for 20 years, it's not working. People need to be held accountable. There's no question they need to be held accountable. Now it's how. And we have a chance and a way in which to make a change for social justice. Hold them accountable, but in developmentally appropriate ways. 18 to 25-year-olds are different. And if we can do something different with this group, we actually stand a chance to keep them out of the system. This is the first program where we aren't saddling 18 to 25-year-olds with a felony for the rest of their lives. These young men of color at 19 with a felony for the rest of their life can't get a job because you have to check the box. Many of our young men are denied opportunities. They need to be held accountable. They did something wrong. And as you heard from the DA, public safety, community safety, that's important. But what we've seen in our research so far and what we've done so far, we want to take what we've learned and change the court system. And this is the first opportunity to do that. And to be honest, we're going to evaluate to see if it works. It's a randomized control trial, and we don't know if it works yet. And that's the goal. And that's why this is a little different. And I want to turn to the public defender because I think you and he probably align the most on this in terms of that. So I'll turn it to Mr. Davis for just a moment.
If you could just be brief, we have another commissioner with another comment. Please.
Sure, I'll be really brief. In reference to court involvement, I think the difference here is the court's already involved. These gentlemen are already charged with a crime. So there's two paths. One is suitability, eligibility. They go to young adult court and they get treatment. And hopefully with your funding, they get behavioral health treatment. The other path is they go on probation or prison and they get zero. And so it's not like the courts are reaching out to individuals and forcing them into the program. These clients are there. Most of them are in custody and they have two doors. Do you want to do regular probation where you check the box and call a probation officer once a month? Or do you want to do this rigorous program where at the end of it, the golden ticket is you get your felony dismissed? And that's why it's so important. The court's already there. We're just trying to say, don't do the regular court system or probation where they're not really going to address your behavioral health issues. Let's do young adult court so we can get you a caseworker, a social worker, and get you treatment. Because in our, at least for me, when I started young adult court, I was naive and I didn't really understand the dynamics of behavioral health with our young adults and how broad it is. And when I started working with young adult court and you see the statistics, you realize it's huge and we need to address it early on between 18 and 25 before it gets worse.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for the
much.
commission's time.
Thank you. Commissioner Gordon, please. I'm sorry.
Yes, very briefly, in my organization, we work a lot with young men and women involved with the juvenile justice system. And I want to hark us back to Commissioner Danovich's comment. I think what we're doing here is we're approving an innovation because it will teach us about what is possible and what works. We're not making policy for once and for all. We're trying to learn about what happens, and prevention needs to start anytime we're able to start it. So even after a young person is in the justice system, we've got to do it better. We've got to do it different. And I think for all of us in the state, this will give us a treasure trove of information about what we can do better with substantial documentation from the research study. So I think this will be very helpful to us.
Thank you, Commissioner Gordon. So at this time, we are going to, let me say something. I do want to say something. Sharon, I reviewed it. I appreciate it. I do appreciate the options, and being a mother of a 23-year-old, that time frame is really critical. And when they make a mistake, to be able to be given options and not just say, these are the consequences, here we go. But really, I appreciated the trauma informed. I appreciate the apprenticeships, because oftentimes in that quote you gave in the beginning, hope is lost. And we know this, right? The statistics do show, if you look at a young man who gets a DUI, that really sets a trajectory, right? Because it's everything. Driving is everything. How do they get a job? How do they get to school? So I appreciate the considerations and the thoughtfulness. And one of the things that we don't necessarily always see is that strong piece of evaluation. And that's something that we should always look at. I know in schools, when we get federal grants, for example, evaluation is huge. How can you possibly work towards something and not know what those outcomes are? So I appreciate that as well. With that, at this time, I am going to ask, are there any public comments? Either in the room, public comments, please raise your hand if you'd like to make a public comment, or virtually? Mariani. All right, Stacy, please.
Hello, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Stacy Hiramoto with REMCO, the Racial and Ethnic Mental Health Disparities Coalition. We do have a few concerns about this proposal, especially because it is such a tremendous amount of money and it's an innovation project. I wish to thank Commissioner Tamplin for asking the excellent questions about why CSS couldn't be used for this program or even PEI. I understand now why CSS couldn't be used, but again, oftentimes youth from communities of color are not given, do not get the diagnosis or the correct diagnosis. That's something that could be corrected. But I also have to say to Commissioner Alvarez, this program, no matter how good it is, does nothing to prevent or impact the school to prison pipeline. It comes far too late. REMCO believes that innovation funding should be more for prevention or upstream programs, since there are so few other sources for community-defined evidence programs. If these young men had been offered all these wonderful services before their interaction with the criminal justice system, wouldn't that make more sense? Wouldn't that be less expensive in the long run? Wouldn't that prevent the crimes from taking place and thus be safer for the community and for them? We would like to have programs funded that would prevent these young men from falling into the criminal justice system. This could be accomplished by spending funding on community-defined evidence programs provided by community-based organizations before. Also, it strikes me sad that Orange County seems to be willing to cite the fact that many Black and brown young men will be participants as a reason to fund this program for offenders. But what efforts have there been to serve these young men as children or before they reach that stage that they are? Have PEI programs to prevent young men at risk from communities of color from becoming involved with the criminal justice system been funding? Finally, one of the issues that REMCO will not let go of is how the OAC has the power to add to the priorities of PEI for transition age youth from underserved communities who are not in college. Currently, the priorities of PEI because of 1004, SB 1004, include transition age youth in college. We would like transition age youth who are not in college to be able to get PEI services. I think that's about my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Next, we have Richard. Your line is open. You may go ahead.
Hello, this is Richard Geller from Santa Cruz, California. I'm a volunteer state access ambassador with Cal Voices. I am opposed to this proposal, even though the idea is great, sounds fantastic, but mentorship is needed. This funding should not be used for this particular purpose. I thought the intent of the Mental Health Services Act is about prevention. Money needs to be used for prevention. I cannot believe that this proposal was allowed by the county to be submitted to the Oversight Commission. I'm a person with lived experience. I have worked in a job training program that serves at-risk youth. I was one of the at-risk youth. It made a difference in my life where I am today. So I'm opposing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
And then we have one last comment from Laurel. Your line is open.
Hello again, this is Laurel. I'm still from REMCO and Muslim American Society Social Services Foundation. I'm sorry for the background noise. There's traffic nearby. So I have to back Stacy and others up. Serious concerns about this proposal. But one thing that I maybe missed, but if this is going to be a research study, have you broken your categories down by different ethnicities and language backgrounds so that at least we make a little progress if this is approved in finding out if what's quote evidence-based practice is actually evidence-based practice with different groups? And if so, which groups have you broken it down in your research design? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurel.
That was our final.
Thank you. Seeing no public comments in the room, I would ask then if we have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chair Alvarez. Are there any other? I'm sorry, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Gordon. Any additional questions or comments from our commissioners, either here or virtually?
This is Commissioner Rolette. I'd like to make a comment.
Please, Commissioner Rolette.
While I am uniquely moved by this, as I've had the privilege, as Commissioner Gordon is aware, to mentor young men who have had involvement with the criminal justice system, and to have a door available to them that would ameliorate the implications for the rest of their lives of being charged with a felony, albeit serious, but not as serious as the ones that are excluded. It is, again, frustrating to me that the legal system can't do this themselves. I believe absolutely that this trial should happen, but I am concerned and quite frankly a bit challenged in that, is this the right source of funding for it? It is, again, essential to the lives of young men and young women and individuals of all identified genders to have this opportunity available to them. However, as the commissioner has eloquently articulated, to ask us to do that is my challenge today. So I need to articulate that. I will vote, but it is uniquely a challenge because I remain frustrated that the legal system doesn't recognize that our current practice is completely ineffective in ameliorating these dilemmas.
Thank you, Commissioner Rolette. Thank you for those comments. Any other comments from my commissioners, comments or questions?
Would it be?
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify a few things. One is treatment is not court ordered through the young adult court. It is when needs are identified, it's encouraged, but it is up to the young men to decide when and where and how they will engage. So it is not court ordered. It's one of the things that we know is not effective, is to force someone into treatment. And so that is not a part of this court's model. The other thing is none of this money is going towards justice agencies. The money is going to provide clinical services, supportive services, is going to UC Irvine to support the evaluation over 5 years. So $12 million spread over 5 years. With regard to prevention, we have to start somewhere. And there are different places, right? Primary, secondary, tertiary prevention. And I believe that this project falls within that. With regard to our fiscal year 22-23 MHSA plan, in 22-23 alone, we have posted a plan investing $76.5 million in prevention and early intervention, half of which is going towards youth and children under the ages of 26. Many of these are school-based programs, including several, most of which serve those who are in our most disproportionately affected communities and school districts, with one specific set of funding specifically tied to reducing gang activity and joining gangs. So we do have other elements. This program is not being and project is not being proposed in a vacuum, but within an entirely robust set of other prevention and early intervention services, as well as other efforts that are even further downstream and upstream. So, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to have Chief Counsel please call the roll. We had the motion, we had the second. So if you could please take the roll.
All right. Commissioner Bontrager.
Aye.
Commissioner Boyd. Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Bunch.
Aye.
Commissioner Carnavale. Commissioner Creel. Commissioner Chambers.
Aye.
No. Keep going. All right.
Commissioner Chen.
Aye.
Commissioner Cortese. Commissioner Danovich.
Aye.
Commissioner Gordon.
Aye.
Commissioner Mitchell. Commissioner Rolette.
Aye.
Commissioner Tamplin.
Opposed.
Vice Chair Alvarez.
Aye.
Chair Madrigal Weiss.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Orange County. Congratulations. The motion has passed, and we look forward to learning from your robust evaluation. And we look forward to hearing about lives that you are changing. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for your
Congratulations.
time.
Okay. All right, item number 4, Governor's Budget Revisions for 2022. Next, the commission will be presented with the governor's budget revisions for 2022. In January, the commission received a presentation on the governor's proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Today, we will hear a presentation on the governor's May revisions and how the administration's proposals support the commission's initiatives. Members of the public may request to make a public comment on item number 4 by clicking the raise hand button on your computer or the app, or by pressing *9 on your phone. Once the public comment period starts, we will close the public comment queue. So please make requests to comment now or as early as possible during the presentation. Norma, please get us started.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time today. It's a great honor to be in this room with you today and back in person, and honored to meet the new commissioners on the team, and look forward to working with all of you. The purpose of today's budget presentation is to provide you with information on the governor's May revised budget related to health needs and update you on the status of the commission's budget request that we discussed in January. Next slide, please. And then the next one, please. Thank you. The governor's revision includes 40 million for youth suicide prevention services with a specific focus on Black, Native American, Hispanic, and foster youth, and 50 million for community-based crisis response services to support schools and communities when an individual has died by suicide or attempted suicide. Next slide, please. The governor is investing 85 million for wellness and mindfulness programs in schools and communities. Funding will also be available to support parents and training programs that will provide strategies to support children and youth experiencing mental health concerns. Also, 15 million will be available for a video series to help parents support the behavioral health needs of their children. The May revision provides 25 million for early career development that will include services to culturally diverse high school students interested in mental health careers. Next slide, please. And 75 million is available for digital supports for remote-based mental health assessments and interventions. Next slide, please. The May revision includes approximately 64 million for care courts, 10 million for care court support program to help the participants understand how to make self-directed choices, 15.2 million to provide training and technical assistance for data collection and evaluation. Next slide, please. And 39.5 million to conduct care court hearings and provide resources for self-help centers. The administration will continue to work with counties to estimate costs associated with this new court process. Next slide, please. 100 million is available for early childhood focused efforts to support healthcare provider integration with other early childhood programs, and 132.9 million for crisis counseling for the Cal Hope program that connects people, communities, volunteers, and partner organizations to help strengthen communities with knowledge, tools, and resources to recover from disasters. Next slide, please. The governor's homeless proposals include 2.9 billion for the Home Key Housing Program and 500 million for interim housing, also referred to as tiny homes, to support the unhoused. Next slide, please. As you recall, in January, the commission directed staff to work with the Department of Finance and the legislature to seek funding for 5 proposals. The following proposals were presented at the Senate and Assembly budget hearing by Executive Director Ewing last week, and we are hopeful that our proposals will be approved in June. As a reminder, the proposals include additional funding for advocacy contracts. Currently, the commission receives $670,000 for immigrants and refugees. And as the chair mentioned earlier, we awarded contracts to 4 local organizations and a statewide organization. We received 16 applications and were only able to fund 4 local organizations. We have asked for an additional $670,000 to expand services in our communities for immigrants and refugees. We also requested $670,000 to support advocacy, outreach, and engagement and training for children and youth. The second proposal is $5 million to establish a behavioral health fellowship designed to drive transformational change and reduce racial, ethnic, and cultural disparities in mental health outcomes. These funds will be used to launch a partnership between the commission and an academic institution with a robust public administration program and a history of supporting public sector employees with education and training. Next slide, please. Our third proposal is $400,000 to establish a leadership role for peers in state government. The commission will contract with subject matter experts and facilitators on the role of peers in California state government. The funding will be used to design and develop a role for mental health peers in California's civil service system, including recommendations for a peer classification, how that classification should be deployed in California state government, which departments should bring on peers, including the commission, the Department of Healthcare Services, the Department of State Hospitals, the Department of Public Health, and other organizations identified through this process. Our fourth request is for a legislative deputy director to help support an increase in workload for our legislative responsibilities. Next slide, please. And our fifth request is modifications to the Mental Health Wellness Act, also known as our triage grant programs. As we have discussed at prior meetings, the commission directed staff to seek modifications to fortify efforts to address the unmet mental health needs, strengthen systems of care, and improve effective use of limited resources for crisis services. The commission's proposal addresses 5 concerns: allow funding to be used for upstream crisis prevention and early intervention, expand uses beyond personnel grants, expand to allow partners other than counties apply for the grants, allow for non-competitive financing where appropriate, and eliminate the prohibition on matching funds. We are hopeful that these proposals will be approved, and we'll share more information with you regarding the governor's final budget at our meeting in July. Next slide. That concludes my presentations, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Norma. Are there any commissioner questions or comments?
Can you clarify what part of this we're voting on? Because it says that there's a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention at the beginning. There is no vote today.
Okay.
This is just updating you on the May revision, what items are in there that might be of interest to you. And then just letting you know that our proposals that we discussed in January are moving forward and we're happy about that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other commissioner questions or comments? I do, yes, there are 3 public comments.
The first public comment is phone number ending in 718. Your line is open. You may go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Steve Leone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good enough. Thank you. I mentioned last meeting that commission really needs to be on top of the care court thing. And there's a reason for that. I really want to emphasize that. And it's hard, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. I was with MHSA from its beginning. I helped write some of it. And it was a vision of transformation. It was a beautiful idea, not just throwing a lot of money at things, but an idea for how to do services. And the current thing is very divisive. And I'll tell you, the clients, usually, but not always, come in and say, guard our rights. Don't put this in a court. Don't have this rope. In fact, actually, 2 days ago at the CFLC, we heard some testimony from people who are people black and brown who said, our relationship with courts is quite different than a lot of white people, and it's going to be very intimidating, this process. And I submit that this is contrary to any kind of racial equity you might want to have. So I agree with these rights things. And I hear the family members oftentimes say, my son, daughter, whoever has anosognosia, they won't take services. They go in and out of places they need help and they need something different. You know what? I agree too. So I think you guys are sitting on top of something that is able to heal this breach potentially. Because when Mark Reagan's devised the village model, which is what the MHSA is based on, he included this outreach, not just any outreach, but it was a very patient, persistent, respectful outreach that could take up to 2 years. Now, that's not very, very good timeline for, not always 2 years, but it's not just offering people voluntary services. And they say, do you want voluntary services? No, I don't. It's actually trust building over time, very slowly. And most of these people who you would say have anosognosia don't want to listen, don't want to come into services, find their own reasons. I mean, I knew one story I heard of was about a guy who thought he heard voices because there were these Martians or whatever shooting ray guns into his head. He still doesn't believe he has, a brain disease or anything like that. But he's figured out that the medications help block the ray guns. So he's willing to take medications. What do we care? It works. You meet the person where they're at and you bring them in. And if you haven't done that, then even if it's 2 years, when you walk out after that 2 years, chances are they'll go back to where they were. So this trust building, very carefully, without a court, could accomplish keeping the rights and at the same time, thing that, in fact, frankly, MHSA was implemented so chaotically that I think a lot of family members were left in the lurch. They didn't get helped by it, and they're pissed, and I don't blame them. If we do this right, we could help those people without the use of force. And it mystifies me that except for the fact that they have put a piece in there
Please wrap up
using
the comment,
MHSA
please.
as a cash cow for court orders, it's not being discussed or mentioned anywhere. Please consider this.
Next we have.
Thank you, Steve.
Next we have Steve. Your line is open. I'm sorry, Stacy. I'm so sorry, Stacy.
Stacy Hiramoto, REMCO, the Racial and Ethnic Mental Health Disparities Coalition. REMCO has no objection to the commission taking positions on legislation. And you're asking for more money. If you're asking for money from the budget for more help in your legislative advocacy, we strongly recommend that you have a legislative committee so that the bills can be discussed thoroughly, and that when you present bills, it is, again, with both pro and con, not just one side, but that both, all perspectives are presented. I know of no other large body that takes positions on bills that does not have a legislative committee, such as the the Behavioral Health Planning Council. They have a committee. Others all have committees, again, because legislation is very important. I think the OEC is very important and has a right to take positions, but that there should be more thorough and fair discussion about all the bills related to the MHSA. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Steve McNally, your line is open. You may go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I'm Steve McNally. I'm in Orange County. I'm a member of the Behavioral Health Advisory Board, but I speak as an individual. You've heard, I'm gonna ask again for help, and that is, it's very hard for us at a local level to understand the nuances of the governor's information or the legislative information. I personally probably follow 60 bills, but it's very hard to stay on top of it. So this is my ask. You all have various levels of influence across the state, and you walk in circles that I'm not able to walk in. Otherwise, I'd do the asking myself. The OAC, the California Behavioral Planning Commission, and the 59 local boards, we need your help to be organized across and aligned. Doesn't mean we have to say the same things, but we have to be able to inform our public and share information and also collect information for each other. And we're currently acting as silos. Or if we're not silos, we're much closer to silos than aggressively supporting the community. So my ask is that if you can find a legislative analyst that can help explain, particularly in the housing, how either MHSA money can or cannot be used for matches, how the school, the housing, the CalOptima, CalAIM, how we're going to leverage it all together so that we don't duplicate or delay implementation of programs because we can't figure out how to communicate with each other. I think you're in a perfect position to help that at the state level, but we need a lot of help coordinate that locally. And when you have 59 local boards dangling in the wind, the 900 community members that we represent, including the 59 electeds, we can't help either our counties or our state. And for you all that are in LA or, these 4 counties, LA, Orange County, Riverside, and San Bernardino, we're 45% of the state. The boards are talking to each other, the local boards, and we need support. And I think that's an area where you can make support for California to be successful in these ventures. If you have a 45% block, that's not, we're not talking to break any laws or anything.
Steve,
We're
you're-
just talking about how to use the communication tools that are available to us to easily communicate what can and cannot be done, what should or should not be done. I think it.
Steve, if you
and
could.
I'm
wrap
gonna
up, your time is
I'm
up.
going to end with this. Thank you very much. I'm going to end with this is a very short list of people know a lot about a topic, but most of California has no idea that we have boards, commissions, we have this commission, planning councils. On paper, they have no idea that these even exist. So whatever you can do to help us, please. Thank you very much and have a terrific day.
And then our last public
Thank you,
comment.
Steve.
Our last public comment is from Richard. Your line is open.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. I have a real problem with the $49.5 million budget for Care Court. Care Court is set up to be failed. The reason there is no housing available for them to go to, whether they're involved with Care Court or not. There's no placement for them to go to, whether it's regular housing, supportive housing, lockup facility, skilled nursing facilities, lockup for those who are appropriate to be placed in those facilities. It's setting up to fail. This is money throwing down the bucket. There is other innovative ways, like a program in Long Beach that's doing it without Care Court, and they're having successes there. This is the model that needs to be utilized to help our community, especially for those with severe mental illness. I have been an advocate. I have helped people with disabilities, seniors, and their families get out of homelessness without involving the court. It's all about seeking the appropriate help, connecting with the appropriate agencies and organizations that get them to be housed and then maintain their independence, living in a home. And lastly, I am really disappointed with the vote for Orange County. I thought the Oversight Commission was trying to be transformative, and you're not. I'm really disappointed with the Oversight Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
And we had 2 more public comments come in after that. So these will be the last 2. Tara, your line is open. You may go ahead.
Thank you so much, and thanks for letting me give public comment, even though I was a little late getting in the queue. So thank you so much. Tara Gamboa Eastman with the Steinberg Institute. We're an independent nonprofit public policy institute dedicated to advancing sound public policy and inspiring leadership on issues of brain health. Wanted to comment on the SB 82 trailer bill proposal. Our founder, Mayor Darrell Steinberg, authored SB 82 when he was in the Senate, and we're really heartened to see the OAC work to make sure that it's really fulfilling all of its promise and living up to its fullest potential with these really wise proposed changes, and we're incredibly supportive of the direction. 2 small changes that we wanted to flag for request. One, we know it's the intent, just wanted to add additional clarity that when we're talking about prevention and early intervention for SB $82, we're talking about crisis prevention and earlier intervention. And then lastly, while we understand there's been quite a challenge using all of the SB $82 given the workforce shortage and the ability to hire folks, that's also why we think it's so important to continue to leverage every dollar we can to address the workforce shortage. And so just ask that that be a priority in grant making, not that it be a requirement for grant applications, but hope that we can use those dollars to support our struggling workforce wherever we can. Thank you so much. Look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you.
And our final comment, Vanessa, your line is open. You may go ahead.
Thank you so much. And thank you for allowing me to comment even after the time have closed. My name is Vanessa Ramos. I am a bicultural, bisexual member of several different committees. I professionally serve with Disability Rights California, and currently I'm just commenting as a resident of Ventura County. I am requesting that the MHSOAC allow time for us to think through Care Court. I and partners and so many that I've spoken to throughout our communities would really like to kill SB 1338 because we know that it's based on stigma and stereotypes of people living with mental health disabilities and experiencing homelessness. And we know that it will disproportionately impact Black Californians who make up 40% of the unhoused population. And this only furthers institutional racism because of a long history of discrimination in housing and employment, healthcare and policies. Black and brown Californians represent the most unhoused population, and they will be more likely to subject to a care court petition. And the court system just does not have the appropriate care for people with mental health disabilities, especially for Black and brown people. And, you know, there's a lot of research that, you know, shows, as Richard mentioned earlier, like different, you know, methods that are successful, you know, so we'd really like to kill, you know, SB 1338. And we do know that there is, you know, we need to do something, but we just like to do something different because this is not it. Care court is coerced, court-ordered treatment system that will strip people with mental health disabilities of their right to make their own decisions. And it will do more harm because studies show forced treatment lessens the likelihood of people seeking voluntary treatment in the future, meaning that a lot of times we'll just mask it. We'll like pretend like everything's good. And the reason why I want to bring it to the MHS OAC is because the California Health and Human Services Agency, on one of their frequently asked questions sheets under bullet point number 13, when they're asked how is care court funded, they said that existing funding sources for the care plan services and supports include nearly 10 billion annual for behavioral health care, including Mental Health Services Act, mental health realignment and federal funds. And it goes on
Your
to,
time is up.
oh, sorry. Okay, but thank you. Okay, sorry.
You can finish.
Oh, I just want to thank everyone for your time. I know it's a hard one, but just, you know, please comment on it and allow us the opportunity to sit with you and to spend time in thinking through what could be done, because we know that this is just not the way. So hi to everyone on the commission, and woo woo to Commissioner Chambers. All right, bye.
Thank you, Vanessa. All right. At this time, there is not a motion. This was more of an informational presentation from Ms. Norma Pate. So we have come to our time. It is 11:49. I want to thank everyone for joining us today to continue to work and to discuss everything that we need to discuss around mental health in our state. We'd especially like to thank members of the public. We value your input and participation. Just a reminder, there will be no meeting in June. But we look forward to seeing you all on July 28th for our next commission meeting. Today's meeting is adjourned. Go and take care of yourselves. Take care of everybody around you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, we turn off this camera.